Power isn't always loud. It doesn't always arrive dressed in status, words, or volume. Some of the sharpest minds in history, Nietzsche believed, moved through the world quietly, not because they were weak, but because they understood something deeper. The person who speaks less reveals less, and the person who reveals less controls more. Silence, in this sense, is not absence. It's leverage. It creates ambiguity, and ambiguity creates psychological power. Most people rush to fill space, to be understood, to be liked. But the one who can sit in the tension of not being fully seen, that person is watching, calculating, moving without being moved. Nietzsche didn't romanticize silence. He understood it as a strategy, a way to escape the games most people don't even realize they're playing. Because when you stay silent, you force others to reveal themselves, their assumptions, their insecurities, their projections. It's not manipulation, it's observation, and observation is how the quiet mind wins. In any room, in any interaction, the person who can listen without leaking their hand holds the real power. Why? Because information is currency, and most people spend it without thinking. Here's the truth. People tell you who they are within the first 5 minutes. But if you're too busy trying to be seen, trying to impress, trying to perform, you miss it. Nietzsche's work wasn't about being passive. It was about being precise. He knew that awareness, not dominance, is the foundation of intelligence. And if you want to become someone who outsmarts without effort, you need to master the art of presence. The kind of presence that doesn't rush to speak. That lets people fill in your silence with their own stories. That doesn't interrupt, but remembers. This isn't about being mysterious for ego's sake. It's about choosing your energy deliberately. Because when you speak less, your words carry more weight. When you reveal less, your movements speak louder. And when you react less, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability, Nietzsche would argue, is power. Because you can't control what you can't read. And the one who isn't easily read becomes feared, respected, remembered. The problem is, most people are addicted to proving themselves. They overshare. They explain. They perform certainty. But certainty isn't power. Composure is. And composure is built through restraint, through discipline, through being okay with not being the loudest person in the room, because you already know who you are. That kind of clarity is rare, and in a world starving for validation, it's magnetic. So next time you're in a conversation, don't rush to respond. Watch, listen to what's not being said. Notice the pauses, the inconsistencies, the body language. That's the real dialogue, because words can lie, but patterns never do. And the one who pays attention to patterns always stays 10 steps ahead. Nietzsche believed that true intelligence doesn't need to announce itself. It makes its presence felt, through precision, through stillness, through insight that doesn't chase, but lands. How to read people instantly, Nietzsche's guide to energetic intelligence. Friedrich Nietzsche believed that we rarely see people as they are, we see them as they present themselves. And yet, beneath their words, their tone, their posturing, the truth is always leaking. You just have to know how to read it. This isn't about mind games. It's about energetic intelligence, because long before someone lies with their mouth, their energy tells the truth. And if you know how to read that energy, you don't need confrontation. You don't need explanation. You know who you're dealing with before they've even figured out their next move. Most people think reading others is about analyzing expressions or body language tricks. But Nietzsche knew better. It's about stillness, presence, observation. Most people don't notice patterns because they're too distracted trying to be interesting. But if you can be interested, truly, you'll notice everything. How someone pauses before answering a question. How they speak about people who aren't in the room. How they subtly shift when you assert a boundary. These aren't quirks. These are cues. And the more present you are, the more obvious they become. People always tell you who they are, not in what they say once, but in what they repeat. That's where their core coding is revealed. And Nietzsche would argue, your job is not to decode it with judgment. It's to observe it with clarity. Because when you understand someone's true programming, you stop personalizing their behavior. You stop being baited by their tactics. You stop hoping they'll change and start deciding how you'll engage. This is the real secret of energetic intelligence. It makes you emotionally immune, not because you're disconnected, but because you're no longer surprised. You see what's happening in real time, and you choose how to respond based on awareness, not reactivity. Nietzsche believed that power is rooted in perception, and the one who sees the pattern first controls the pace. Here's how to sharpen that perception. Start tracking how you feel in someone's presence, not just what they say. Does your body feel light or heavy? Do you find yourself doubting your memory around them? Do you feel more clear or more confused after you interact? These are not random sensations, they're nervous system intelligence. Your body picks up on frequencies your conscious mind hasn't labeled yet. Trust that. Then, watch what people emphasize. Do they speak to impress or to connect? Do they focus on status or on substance? Are they curious, or are they waiting for you to stop talking so they can speak again? These details might seem subtle, but Nietzsche would say, the subtle is where truth hides. And once you develop that clarity, something strange happens. You speak less. You correct less. You explain less. Because you no longer need to argue reality. You see it. And the ones who see clearly, they don't dominate. They navigate, strategically, seamlessly, quietly. Nietzsche didn't want you to become paranoid. He wanted you to become precise, to see what others miss. And once you do, people stop being mysteries. They become mirrors of your discernment, your boundaries, your clarity. You're no longer at the mercy of their story. You're writing your own. The power of being underestimated and why silence always wins in the end. Friedrich Nietzsche didn't seek attention. He studied it. He understood that the loudest person in the room rarely holds the most power. In fact, the opposite is often true. The person who is underestimated is free, because when people assume you're not a threat, they expose their hand. They speak too soon, move too fast, reveal too much. And if you're watching, not performing, not proving, not defending, you see it all unfold. That's the paradox of power. Those who are feared are watched, but those who are dismissed are free to watch everything. There is no greater psychological advantage than being calmly underestimated. It lets you move without resistance, learn without suspicion, strike, when necessary, with precision, not noise. Nietzsche believed that superiority doesn't need to be declared. It only needs to be embodied. And once you stop needing to be seen, your energy becomes sharper, cleaner, more dangerous, in the best way. Think about it. When someone assumes you're naive, they speak more than they should. When someone thinks you're soft, they test boundaries they didn't know you'd enforce. When someone thinks you're too kind to walk away, and you do, the impact is unforgettable. And all of that power comes from silence, not the silence of fear, the silence of composure, of strategy, of someone who knows exactly who they are and doesn't need external confirmation. This doesn't mean you stay quiet out of fear. It means you speak only when necessary, and when you do, your words carry weight. Your presence becomes a disruption to those used to control. Your stillness becomes a mirror for their instability, and that's when the dynamic flips. They're no longer managing you. They're recalibrating themselves around you. Nietzsche knew that this kind of power isn't reactive, it's relational. It doesn't dominate. It reorients the entire field. And the best part, you don't have to raise your voice, just your awareness, your standards, your boundaries. That shift in energy alone will speak louder than anything you could say. So if you've ever felt overlooked, unseen, dismissed, good. That's your advantage. That's your protection. You're not here to prove. You're here to observe, to gather, to build the kind of presence that changes the room without announcing itself. And if this content is making sense to you, then click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Remember, your silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. And the ones who understand that don't just survive, they move with the kind of quiet power that can't be shaken. becoming unreadable, and the return of inner sovereignty. There's a moment in your evolution when you realize not everyone deserves access to your mind. Not everyone gets to read you. Not everyone is entitled to your emotional responses, your motivations, your inner world. Nietzsche called this sovereignty, the full return of power to the self. And in his world, the most powerful individuals weren't those who conquered others. They were the ones who couldn't be easily interpreted, manipulated, or controlled. They were unreadable. And not because they were distant, but because they were whole. To be unreadable is not to be cold. It's to be contained. It's to know yourself so deeply that you no longer offer your thoughts for approval, your feelings for validation, your silence for suspicion. You no longer flinch when someone can't figure you out. You let their confusion breathe. Because that confusion, that's where your power begins. When people can't read you, they can't predict you. And when they can't predict you, they can't control you. That's not mystery for ego's sake. That's energetic self-possession. It means you speak when it matters. You express without explaining. You observe without absorbing. And most importantly, you choose what to reveal and when. Not out of fear, but from authority. This is the quiet revolution of reclaiming your space in a world that wants you performative and porous. When you stop leaking your essence into every conversation, every reaction, every attempt to be understood, you become magnetic. People feel your presence more because you're not trying to prove it. They lean in, not because you're loud, but because you've become rare. Nietzsche believed that the path to mastery was the path back to self-trust. And the more you trust yourself, the less you explain. The less you explain, the more you conserve your energy. The more energy you hold, the stronger your perception becomes. And suddenly, you're not trying to outsmart people anymore. You're simply unbothered. You've outgrown the need to participate in games designed to steal your focus. So, if you've been told you're hard to read, quiet, too much in your own world, take that as confirmation. Not that something's wrong with you, but that you're no longer emotionally available to those who haven't earned access. That's not arrogance. That's evolution. Because when you know who you are, you don't need to be understood. You need to be aligned. If you made it this far, you're not just watching. You're remembering, returning, reclaiming your inner ground. So trust that the video YouTube shows you next, the one appearing now, is not random. It's the next doorway, the next layer, and it will meet you exactly where you are. If this resonated, take a moment to subscribe. Drop a comment below, not for the algorithm, but to mark this chapter in your journey. We'll see you in the next depth. Depthoria continues.